Hello, and thank you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City. I'm your host, Courtney Bloomer, and today's episode is brought to you by the Red Wagon Network, bringing together businesses and community organizations in Northern Nevada to promote cooperation and partnership. Visit them on Facebook at Red Wagon Network. Our guest today, we have a very special guest. This is Carson City's freshman Assembly member, Al Kramer. Welcome, Assemblyman Kramer.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you.
You were elected in November to represent Assembly District 40 at the Nevada State Legislature. What's that been like so far?
You know, I've been involved in 11 sessions of the Assembly, or of the legislature, starting in 1995. And I was still surprised at how much behind-the-scenes work is done by a legislator. There's so much reading to do, and so much coordinating to do, and listening to people who have opinions on things. And then when you get an opinion from somebody, you go to your friends or people you respect and trust, and you say, well, is there anything you can add to that? And and you try and build your knowledge behind these different bills.
You know, I think when people go and read some of these bills, to the layperson, they can be very confusing. So it's very helpful to have an in-person good examples there to help us understand what exactly is trying to be accomplished. This legislative session, there are a lot of kind of hot button issues that are facing Nevada: education, public lands, a number of things that water is a big one, that are gonna come up, and constituents are gonna have thoughts about these things. How can constituents get in touch with you to let you know how they feel about certain things that are going on in the legislature?
Well, first off, 684-8825 is my phone number, and if you call there, you'll end up talking to Sally Lincoln, my attaché. She's a longtime Carson person, and will do her best to answer your question and get you where you want to be. And if you want to see me, she can schedule you. We'll find a place in the schedule to meet. I try very hard to be there whenever I need to be. When I'm not in committee sometime, I'll make time. So that's one way. But, any citizen can walk down to the legislature building anytime they want, can wander the halls, and we're not like some places where they sequester the legislators off in this area and the public can go over here. You mix with the legislators. You're going to see them in the hallway. You can talk to them the whole bit. And if there's a committee meeting you want to go to, it's posted on the bulletin boards. You can find out when are they going to talk about this. You can find, and there it is on the bulletin board. You can go find out when they're going to talk about it. Show up at the committee meeting. If you're listening to that committee and they're saying something that doesn't sound quite right to you, you can go up and testify. You just go sign in, and they'll make time for you. No matter how many people sign in, they'll make time. They may say, well, you only get 2 minutes, but you can testify. So if you feel like you've got something to add to it, or you've got a question that hasn't been answered, just sign in to testify and go down, and you can ask your question, or you can give the testimony and go on the record for whatever you want to say. So I think Nevada, we're still a very friendly state when it comes to legislature. And you can walk into virtually any office in that building and say to the aide or the attaché in that office and say, I'd like to meet with this senator or this assemblyman, and when have we scheduled something, and virtually all of them will say, no problem, let's do it, what your schedule look like, and you can find a time that meets. So I'm very proud of the way our system works in Nevada.
All right. You are a lifelong Nevada resident.
I'm a fourth generation. My great-great-great-grandfather settled in Washoe Valley. You know where the hill coming down the Pleasant Valley where the volunteer fire station is? Behind that, settled there in the 1850s. And his son is in Washoe Valley, kind of across the road from where the cattlemen's used to be. And my grandmother was born in the white house at the top of the hill as you go into Washoe Valley, the old watermaster's house, the watermaster house. She was born there because her dad was the watermaster. My folks lived in Fernley. My dad was born in Fernley, and when he got out of the army, they moved to Carson shortly after that. And then we lived on West 4th Street, right across the street from where Alan Glover lived. And Alan Glover and I were preschoolers together running around Carson City. So yeah, I know that makes me old.
What does it mean to you now to be representing Carson City in the state legislature?
I'll work at it, and the hardest thing I'm learning is to reserve speaking until I've really matured the thoughts in my mind and not spout off something that hasn't matured yet from listening to both sides and hearing the arguments. So half the time when people ask me how things are looking, and I say, well, I'm learning, I've still got some research to do on that, or something like that. But if this is what it is, I'm probably for it, but I'll have to see the language. You almost have to put in that clarification conditions on what you say, because something could come along that changes your mind. And I've got basic principles, and if something came along that violated one of those basic principles, then I'm not going to be able to stand for it. Even though it sounds good, sometimes you got to say, I can't support it anyway.
Well, Al Kramer, Assemblyman for District 40, representing Carson City in the Nevada State Legislature, thank you for the time that you put in to educate yourself and represent Carson City well. Best of luck this session.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Bye.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for this week's edition of It's Your City, brought to you by the Red Wagon Network. Visit them on Facebook at Red Wagon Network. If your business or organization would like to sponsor a future edition of It's Your City, please contact Darla at the address shown on your screen. I'm your host, Courtney Bloomer. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.